For many veterans living with the invisible wounds of war, traditional talk therapy and prescription medications don't always provide the answers they're searching for. So what happens when the standard options fail? In this episode of the DAV Podcast, Matt Saint Singh talks with Army veteran Sam Juan. Sam began her military career in food service before transitioning into signals intelligence and later serving with a pilot cultural support team attached to special operations units in Afghanistan. This was a groundbreaking role that placed her alongside some of the military's most elite missions. But after the uniform came off, a different battle began. Beneath a growing career as a full-time artist were years of unresolved childhood trauma, the lingering weight of deployment, and a dangerous dependence on prescription opiates. Desperate for relief, Sam eventually traveled to Mexico for an intense 14-hour ibogaine treatment that she says fundamentally changed the course of her life. Stay tuned as Sam shares the difficult realities behind psychedelic-assisted healing, the risks of seeking treatment outside traditional systems, the importance of ethical care and integration, and why, in the end, human connection may be the most powerful medicine of all.
Sam, could you share a little bit about your Army career and the nature of your work supporting special operations?
Sure. So my name is Sam Juan. I am an Army veteran, spent 11 years on active duty. When I first joined, I wasn't a citizen, so I came in as a food service specialist. And then once I got my citizenship, I switched over to signals intelligence analyst, if you're unfamiliar with that. Snowden had the same job as me. We actually worked the same facility. And then during my time as a signals intelligence analyst, I volunteered to be a part of the first selection for the cultural support team program. And as a pilot, the idea was that they would select and train women to operate with Tier 1 and Tier 2 units to gather intel from Afghan women and bring a little cultural nuance to the operation. So volunteered, went through selection, and then was selected. And I was assigned to Joint Special Operations Command, or JSOC. And that was 2012. I deployed to Fob Shank, Logar Province, and I supported 2 Navy SEAL teams for almost a year, about 10 months.
So with these cultural support teams, is it something like it helps to have a woman on the objective, so you could kind of talk to the women that are on the ground there, or to kind of or what role did gender play in the mission?
So culturally, in that area of the world, women are not supposed to or allowed to speak to men unless they are married to them, it is their brother, some sort of family member. And so women were only supposed to be talking to other women. So when we're trying to go to the target, gather information, half of the population is not being screened or addressed. And so they saw a gap there, the military saw a gap to which women were required to kind of abide by their cultural norms. So the first selection back in 2011 were to kind of assess to see if women could go through selection, make it, without standards being dropped, and hang with Tier 1 and Tier 2 units, being of that caliber. So we're, gathering intel, doing searching, but we did have 2 different objectives, right? So like day ops and night ops. And so if you're doing your village stability operations, that's a completely different mission versus your night operations or night raids, which is what I was doing.
And what aspect of that work shaped your military career the most?
I would say, one, it was the first of its kind. And so having the kind of courage and it was really vague. And I mean, it was a poster that was put out saying like, become a part of history. And that was pretty much it. And so without really knowing what you're signing up for, I committed to training up for the unknown. So you can only train up only so far, right? But it was a pivotal moment in my career because not only did I make it through, but it opened so many other doors after I left the military. So being part of Special Operations or Joint Special Operations Command just was a sense of pride. for sure.
And so you get out of the Army, and when did you start first noticing signs that something wasn't right, emotionally or mentally or even physically?
Well, physically was definitely while I was still in training up at that intensity for a long period of time, kind of does its wear and tear. But if I were to be honest, like a lot of the training, a lot of the things that we were experiencing, especially on deployments, I didn't do a lot of reflection. I didn't do a lot of, like we did debriefs, but I didn't do any emotional debriefs. And so I left active duty probably within a year of me getting back from Afghanistan from this deployment. I had decided while I was there that I would go to art school. I just felt that was where my journey is supposed to take me and went full steam ahead in it. So now I'm in art school, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of veterans go through identity or transition struggles, challenges, and I definitely was one of them. So switching from Joint Special Operations Command to now I'm pursuing painting as a full-time artist within a year with no time to kind of decompress and integrate. So without me being aware that things were cracking, things were starting to fall apart, I kept trying to perform at the level that I was used to performing at, but just now in a different industry or field without really tending to my emotional needs.
So what brought you to consider plant medicine-based therapies in the first place?
I was self-medicating. I was still getting good grades, but I was, numbing out as much as possible, disconnecting as much as possible. Not only because of what was going on or what had happened overseas, but stuff that I had not processed in my childhood. A lot of traumatic incidences, abuse, sexual abuse. And so eventually I asked for help. I realized that I couldn't do it alone, and I had not talked to a traditional talk therapist ever. Yeah, I kind of just put it out there into the world like, hey, I think I need some help and I don't know what to do now. So when I did that, and as cheesy as it might be, I put it out on social media, I had a flooding of support, responses, encouragement, and some resources. I ibogaine didn't come until like years later, but that was my first experience with peyote, which is a mescaline or cactus.
Interesting. So you really leverage your social media following or just your social media accounts into saying, I need help. And I think that's a story that many veterans can definitely relate with for sure. But how did you first hear about ibogaine?
So, okay, so like I said, I initially started doing plant medicine that wasn't ibogaine with the Native American Church. That led me to meet Dr. Martin Polanco, who is the founder of the Mission Within. And at first I was going to get treated with psilocybin and 5-MeO-DMT. And I kept going back because I wasn't, I didn't feel like I had processed enough and I wasn't integrating properly. So I kept going back to the Mission Within and some other organizations. But eventually Dr. Polanco was pretty blunt and he goes, look, like you've been coming back, every so often, and you're making progress, but like with your background and the things that you're processing or dealing with, ibogaine is really what you need to do. And I was like, no, that seems too intense. I'm gonna just stick with psilocybin for now. It's kind of working, which it was, and it has huge benefits. But the reason why I went back to finally ask for ibogaine was because I started using opiates and I became addicted to opiates. And so I was going through withdrawals and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. What kind of preparation went into your ibogaine journey?
So typically you have your pre-screen, you have your coaching calls, and then you prepare for your ceremony. At the time that I called Dr. Polanco, because I was in such a bad place, I had lost my job. I was going through a breakup. We lived together, and so he was kicking me out, so I didn't have anywhere to live, and I was addicted to Percocets. I didn't go through the typical screening. I didn't go through the weeks of preparation because it was such an impromptu thing. I called him on a Tuesday, like, Dr. Polanco, I really need some help here. And the universe and he were like, well, can you be in Mexico by Friday? And we just made it happen. And I think, well, not just made it happen. I take that back. It was a miracle. I had to seek out financial support, and Sabo Foundation was able to step in and ensure that I got the funding needed to go get treated at the mission within.
These things are not cheap for sure. And I mean, it starts off with you have to leave the country in many cases. That's just a cost level that, some people, it'd be hard for them to make that commitment. For people who have never done this therapy, how would you describe the experience?
Mm. I don't want to deter anyone. I say that I was using other psychedelics for years before I decided to step forward with ibogaine, and ibogaine was a completely different journey than anything I've done, and I've done peyote, 5-MeO, DMT, psilocybin, MDMA in therapeutic settings, ketamine in therapeutic settings, and so with all that experience, it doesn't compare. It felt dark. It felt daunting. But again, like I was going there because I was in such a bad place, and I was going through my addiction. And I think the medicine, depending on how you look at it, I view it as a very spiritual experience. It's not just clinical or medicinal. I really feel like what I was experiencing then and what I saw and what I felt was completely needed. And because of how intense it is, or it was, I haven't touched an opiate since. I haven't even had the craving to. I think I really needed kind of that for me to not go back to my old habits. I can't speak to the science behind it. I know there's a lot of things that happen in your brain that ibogaine is like really on the cutting edge for opiate addiction and alcoholism. So whatever it does, it really worked for me, thankfully.
That's great. Was there a moment during the treatment or after that kind of felt like a turning point or a revelation?
Not during, no. If I could be on it, like I wanted it to end immediately. And like it was a 14-hour journey. I didn't do enough prep, and I didn't research because I was just so desperate. And I think I probably would have researched myself out of the treatment if I had done my homework. Yeah, there was no revelation, not during, not immediately after. It wasn't till weeks later of me like finally looking back at the journey, like, what am I supposed to take away from this? I mean, thankfully, I didn't want to do any more of the drugs, which I was like, okay, if that's what I'm supposed to take away, great. So I was visually seeing like shard mirrors, like different spirits coming, whispering over me, dark shadows. And I interpret that as like the old versions of me, the old characters or the the ways of being that I was like so attached to with this, the way I was living my life, like, which was like leading me to want to use and self-medicate. So having to let those go and facing them and knowing them, these are things I can't take with me into this next chapter of my life.
Did your military experience show up at all during the session?
Um, Not blatantly, like I didn't feel like I was back in Afghanistan, if that's what you mean. No.
Many veterans struggle with trauma, and I think sometimes it feels deeply tied to their service or even their identity within their service. I'm curious if the effects made that connection for you at all.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I was letting go of those versions of me, and so a soldier, the strong one, is one of them, right? Like putting on the mask of I have my shit together. I'm a high performer. Uh, I know what I'm doing. I'm strong. Those things that I thought I should latch onto, like that felt safe, appearing like I have my stuff together versus like sharing my vulnerability or sharing that I need help. And now understanding like that shows immense strength and courage to allow people to see that side of you.
This reframing that happens after a psychedelic experience, I feel like is something that is very common. Everyone calls it like this integration now. I think you described it without saying the word. Weeks later, pontificating on the experience and everything, and things came together to a clear picture. But I want to shift a little bit now to the policy area here. What do you think needs to change in terms of access, regulation, support for psychedelic treatments for veterans?
Obviously, there are immense benefits to the medicine. And with the right intentions, the right processes in place, the right amenities, a lot of good can be done, right? But I've seen in the retreats and, eventually, like, it's going to be very challenging to support the demand, right? Like with people that are highly trained, qualified. And I'm not just talking from a clinical perspective, this medicine is sacred. Like people should understand the ritual aspect of it, where this comes from, how this integrates into your life, it's not just a magic pill. It would be beautiful to see, while the demand is increasing and the access is increasing, that there are organizations and companies matching with qualified and high caliber services and people to uphold that so that veterans get the quality care that they need, not just, hey, here's some medicine, because it could go really bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you could speak directly to Congress or VA leadership, what do you want them to understand about this treatment?
That it's life-saving, but it needs to be done in the right way. That access should be given to not only veterans, but for people who need it. But I also would love that they know that we need to source this ethically. It's not just about making a profit. It's communal, right? Once you've done the medicine, I keep in contact with the people that I've journeyed with, because they're really the only people that get it, and the only people that you can really talk to. And so it's a network, a mycelium network that continually, it's part of your life forever. So if you're going to release this to the masses, please do it the right way and not just because you want to make a profit.
Looking back on the entire journey, what does healing mean to you now?
It's a good question. Healing means to me now returning back to myself, understanding who I am before anybody told me who to be. Understanding it's not just one simple medicine, tool, modality, that it's a toolbox or network of tools, people, community, but giving myself the grace to experiment, try, know that I'll be supported, and that now I can really show up as myself confidently.
Sam, we very much appreciate sharing your story and your insight and your journey. My last question here is, what message do veterans need who feel stuck or hopeless or maybe out of options?
I've definitely been there, so totally get it. I would say reach out to any one of these organizations like the Mission Within, Beyond, Heroic Hearts Project, Illuminating Heroes. They're doing it correctly. Ambio. And know that there's a network of loving, supportive people out there who've gone through it as well that are open to talking or sharing their experience. There are resources out there, so reach out, see what they say, and you'll know when the medicine is right for you.
Healing isn't a magic pill. It's a journey of returning back to yourself and building a community to support you along the way. To any veterans listening who feel hopeless right now, Sam's message is simple. Reach out. You're not alone. And there are resources and people out there who understand. Thank you to Sam Juan for sharing her journey today. If you found value in this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment below to help DAV share more stories like hers. Until next time, take care.